Hello there! I'm doing another painting video with a voiceover after so many years. It's like I could have lost my voice for all you guys would know, but no, yeah, it's just I got a bit self-conscious. Well, I'm always a bit self-conscious with my voice, but I decided to try just doing some music. Also, I've been living in houses that have really thin walls recently, so I haven't been at liberty to just record whenever I feel like it, like at 5 a.m. So it was just easier to do music, but I really don't feel like having to search for 17 minutes worth of non-copyrighted music that I haven't used before. I think I've recycled a couple songs in the... Well, I've only done like 3 speed paintings that have music behind them since the last voiceover. I don't even remember. But yeah, finding music that doesn't have copyright that you can put in a video that sounds to my liking and at the same time I won't get, a strike for. But anyway, yay, voiceover. And honestly, I've been watching a lot more art videos that have voiceovers anyway. I don't really find just speed painting with some music, I don't really find it so much as captivating as I used to. It's more like an old hat at this point. But yeah, to talk about the painting that I'm doing, it's my character Chrome, and he's a tattoo artist, so I decided to let's paint him how he's sat on a non-busy day at work, just manning the front counter of the tattoo parlour. And yeah, that was the concept behind the painting, just him sat there sketching. If you walk into his shop, this is what you might see. This is what I would love to see if I walked into a tattoo place, Chrome just sat there looking all... Anyway, this painting style is still something I'm trying to learn. I've only done, I think this is my third, well, technically it might be my 5th piece, but the first 2 were really, not good at all. It's my third one when I've actually gotten into a groove. My first one was wings painting I did of my OC series. The second one was a fan art piece I did for Mermaid, and this is the third one here. It's painterly over painting, not line art, not smooth shading, but a more textury kind of shading. So, oh wait, I think I finally realized, because it just hit me now, that between the last time that I tried, well not the last time, before the wings painting, between then and now, when I've been really getting into this painting style, I've taken up acrylic painting, like traditional acrylic painting. Usually traditional paints were my worst enemy. Watercolours, oil, I've never actually tried oils, but watercolours, acrylic, any sort of physical painting thing used to be my worst enemy because I got so spoiled by Photoshop. But since I got some acrylics for Christmas, and I've done a bunch of paintings since then, and so that's the big difference between my abundance of line art painting and me starting now to do more painterly digital things. So right, here we have, starting from the beginning, I did a very zoomed out sort of scratching in, kind of blocking out shapes, this is how his silhouette would look, this is the basic shape of his torso, and then I zoomed in a bit and started adding features, this is his one arm, this is his hand, this is his head, and then I flipped the canvas, and then I refined it a bit more, fixed things that looked a bit awkward, and then I refined it some more, did the hair, and then I went over it with not really a line art. This is the first time I've actually gone over the sketch with another sketch, because the 2 times I've done it before and the guy that I learnt it from, he erases away all the extra bits of just sketch lines so that it's easier to work with, but I found that would take too much time. It was just easier to just go over it with a new sketch, thinner, so that I could just start colouring. So that's what I did, and then I blocked in a mask so that I could just do that all at once, and then all my colours could just go on top of that, and I wouldn't have to worry about going outside this silhouette after. And it's just a bit of a shortcut to laying in base colours. I don't usually paint through base colours like this. Usually I go through selections or paths with the pen tool, but with the painterly style, I like having the texture of the chalk brush show around the edges. I found this out in my mermaid piece because it seemed really jarring to have the very sharp, crisp silhouettes against everything else being so loose and painterly. So I ended up having to go over all the silhouettes with the chalk brush to distress it a bit. So this time I decided to just straight up do all the base colours with the chalk brush and the chalk brush on the eraser, so that it just has that texture to it that unifies it more. And right after I finished blocking in the base colours for the character, I did the base colours for the background, or just before I started the colours for... I did the mask and then I did the colours for the background, and I did this because I've been learning a lot about colour theory and the way colours interact. The ambient light is going to affect the cast that the other colours have. So his chrome skin, the local colour of chrome skin, local colour is what you call just the actual colour, is more yellowy than what I used here. But because everything else is so cool, so green, so blue, so not warm, it's more pinky and less saturated. And a bit darker, I think, too. But then I did a highlight. I can't math that. It's a lot of math, learning about lighting and colour and all that. But I've been really enjoying it. I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Yes, and also a new method for painting the hair is more like a band of light and then a band of shadow on either side. And then the darkest point of the hair is right under the band of light. I find it gives the hair a really glossy sort of look, and it's easier to pull off than either of my other methods, because my other two methods to paint hair are either half cell shaded, where everything needs to be crisp and sharp and then some gradients, or going in and doing individual strands of hair, and it's not as painstaking as I make it sound. I do a lot of Photoshop magic with like a multiply setting on the brush to make it easier on myself. It's still a lot more work than this is, and this actually fits in with the bigger picture type of painting style more than either of the other two. I guess the half cell shaded thing fits in pretty well with most of my other kinds of paintings, because besides actual painting, my half cell shaded style method thingy is my go-to thing, my go-to type of way to produce digital art. But yeah, recently I never really do full cell shading because it's just, I don't trust myself to be that precise. I feel like you need to have a lot more instinct than what I have to perfectly block in where the core shadows are. I think they're called Terminator shadows. See, I'm learning so much. Photoshop crashed right there. I'd done a lot more to the skin and then Photoshop crashed, so I had to go back, cut the recording, restart the recording, all that, and then keep going with the skin. It was a very... Anyway, so yeah, I don't trust myself so much to do very harsh shading, like cell shading. And also my regular type of style, even with doing something like a chibi, doesn't allow so much generalization of shapes. It's more forms. So yeah, painting or my hybrid style. And another thing I learned the long way was chalk brush is not your best friend when it comes to painting skin. I love the chalk brush. I used the chalk brush for this entire painting, barring a couple things, but I was really fighting with this brush trying to blend out the skin, and eventually, I think pretty soon here you're going to see me trying to make another layer and blur it with like the Gaussian blur, and then delete that because that looked terrible. There it goes, and then, okay, no, let's go in with an actual soft brush, but then, oh no, wait, I missed the texture of the chalk brush. Let's go in there. I think if I had to do this again, I would go in first with the soft brush, then with the chalk brush to add some texture. I think it would have saved me a lot of time and grief. And there I am going to add some reflected light. Reflected light is another thing that I learned in my whole montage of learning about lighting, and it really does a lot to ground the character in the scene. I used to struggle a lot with that whenever I tried to add a background, which was very rarely because noob artist. So whenever I tried to put a background, the character always seemed like he wasn't there, or he was floating, or just something. But then reflected light, on top of giving the character extra dynamic, here I am going crazy with the reflected light and the dark shade, which that's the thing about the reflected light. The darker the surface, the more reflected light shows. So it goes very prominently on something as dark as the shirt. There I am grabbing his tattoos from another drawing I did of him, and it's gonna have to undergo a lot of editing. Honestly, I think it would have been faster just to draw them manually for this particular painting, but well, what's done is done. So yeah, reflected light, it grounds the character really nicely in the scene, and it's not that hard to add, especially if you already set down colours for the background while you're painting. So I just literally took the colours from the desk, the counter, and I put it under his chin, and I put it a bit in his hair, and I put it in the places that are deep in shadow that would be facing towards the ground. So again, like I said, a lot of math comes when learning colour and lighting. And here I am after I finished putting in like the main painting things. I did some overpainting layers. Overpainting and I are newly friends. I used to have a very hate relationship with overpainting layers because I always felt like I never had the patience for them, even though my best friend only paints using overpainting. Like, she thinks it's sort of alien that I use line art, but it's just I never understood how she could overpaint. It just seemed like a huge slog of just repainting the same thing over and over and over and over again. But I think ever since I took up acrylic painting, it's grown on me a lot. Chrome tends to have bags under his eyes, and I struggled a bit in adding them because it had to make sense, but I didn't want it to be too jarring, because he's meant to be an attractive character, right? Because you always make your characters attractive, because yes. And yeah, here I am just editing all the tattoo that I just copy pasted into it, because it just, yeah, it stands out quite a lot. I did most of the editing on the tattoo on this arm because I felt like it just completely didn't follow the form of the arm, but then I'm pretty happy with the fixes that I made. What else can I say? Yeah, I learned a lot about light. I've become newly friends with overpainting and just digital painting in general. Yeah, this is the first, well, not, I have been drawing a lot lately, like, well, not, if someone's a professional artist, they've probably been drawing more than me, but compared to how much I usually draw, I've been drawing a lot lately, but not so much digitally, but in my sketchbook. I've broken a new sketchbook 3 weeks ago, and I'm already a third of the way through it, and I realise that some people get through a sketchbook or two a month. I know animators get through sketchbooks like I get through soda, which is a lot. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of work in my sketchbook. I've reacquainted myself with my colour pencils. I've gotten a lot better with traditional inking with Sakura pens. I've started trying to experiment with brush pens. I've just done so much stuff in my sketchbook, and I've been trying to figure out a way to record traditional art, like a traditional painting, a traditional drawing. Actually, I tried to record an acrylic painting with a camera and my brother's tripod a couple weeks ago, and I ended up with a before photo and an after photo instead of a video, so that was a fun day, but the camera was too far away from the painting anyway, so it would have been a shitty video. Yeah, here in the painting, I finished doing the bulk of the painting work on the character, so I started detailing and doing stuff to the background, which I'd originally thrown together very, very quickly, very sloppily, just to have the colours there, but I didn't really render it that much. The end result isn't rendered that much more anyway, but it's, yeah, I think it came together really nicely since the character's the focus anyway. I just wanted to frame it. I wanted a big background and then the character sort of smaller, because I always do the character so big. I wanted to try something a bit new. And besides the sketchbook right there, because that's supposed to be a sketchbook, because tattoo artists have sketchbooks too, the sketchbook is the theme of this month of my life. Or these 2 months, or these 3, I don't know. So, besides the sketchbook, I sort of freehanded everything else on the desk. You'll see me sometimes bringing up some perspective lines that I drew when I was doing the sketch, because I thought that was good to just have there, even though I don't exactly know how to use it so much. And freehand drawing a glass when I didn't look at any references, when I never actually tried. I don't think I've ever actually tried to draw a glass. And that sheet of paper that's supposed to be the appointment and the schedule, and I define it a bit better later, but that's something I learned that's really cool about the, oh, that's supposed to be a phone. It's like so shoddy, like I couldn't have taken a bit of extra time to smooth over the colours at all. Nope. What was I saying? Oh yeah, the chalk brush, I find any sort of brush that has a bit of texture to it, it inevitably is a bit rougher, so that you can get away with just throwing colours onto the surface, and then it'll just, like, the eye will read it as something, even though that something might not be particularly clear. It doesn't have to be, because the brush has this distressedness to it that makes it appear as if it's more detailed than it is. And on top of everything, I added some like framing type of things and some vertical lines going up and down, just to add some texture and to kind of reflect a bit of what goes on in Chrome's brain. I think I could go into a way deeper type of talk about that, because I know this character really well. It's the character I know best, actually, out of my characters. But the majority of the painting's done here. I'm just doing some like final effects that I picked up from a couple tutorials. That was honestly a bit of a double-edged sword, because they're so much fun, yet they're so addictive, yet they take away from the actual painting. But it's just like adding a bunch of Instagram filters on top of a photo that you know, it can be cool looking, but then at the same time it takes away from the photo. Speaking of Instagram, please make sure to follow me on Instagram. I post so much stuff there. Haha, shameless plug. So yeah, just like adding effects, adding harmonizing, making things pop, making things go back to down to the background, and things in general to conclude a painting. I think this is about it, so I'll start wrapping up now. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Comment down in the comments below if you want to see more, what you want to see. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, DeviantArt. I have my Tumblr, but I don't really use it. Yeah, just chat to me what you think, and I hope you really enjoyed this. I had fun making it, and I guess I'll see you in the next video.